Hey everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at Cult of the Lamb, a new roguelike game that came out a few days ago. Premise of the game is simple. You are the last lamb that is about to be sacrificed by the false prophets to prevent the resurrection of the one who waits. But as your soul is on its way to the afterlife, the one who waits is able to intercept you and resurrect you with a new purpose, to build a cult in his name. And that is where the game begins. Gameplay itself is then divided between venturing into the procedurally generated dungeons, like you're used to from most roguelikes, and the management of your cult. When going into the dungeons, you're also able to choose your desired path, so if you need to bring back certain valuables to grow your cult, then you could choose a route that gives you access to those materials the most. So a dungeon run could be filled with nothing but combat action, or most of it could be you interacting with special NPCs, gaining followers, and gathering of materials. Combat itself is very straightforward. At the beginning of a dungeon run you get a weapon and a curse is just a fancy name for a magic spell. You then also have a dodge roll that has some iframes. Weapons and curses come in a few different forms, each with their own passives sometimes as well, and as you get further into the game you will also unlock more types of weapons, both for the type of the weapon, like sword, axe, hammer, that kind of stuff, but also for the element, I guess you could call it. Some weapons can poison foes, some can lifesteal, some will even spawn little ghosts when you kill enemies, that kind of stuff. Same thing goes for spells. As for using the spells, they use a resource called fervor, which will fill up as you kill enemies, and then once you have enough fervor you can cast your spell once, and you can also save up a few charges, and these charges can also be upgraded as your character gets stronger. Each dungeon has one mini-boss or a big boss at the end, and in terms of progression, the story is progressed by going through the dungeons, and there are 4 different regions, each with their own boss at the end. But to reach that big boss at the end, you first need to beat the 3 mini-bosses to open up a portal to fight this region boss, I guess I'll call it. After having beaten this region boss, you can still head back into these regions though, in case you need to go there to gather some materials, or if one of your followers gives you a request, because followers can also request things from you, and you might have to go into certain dungeons for that. The cult management aspect of the game is where most of your character progression comes from then. As the fate of your followers increases, so does your power. Once a day you can give a sermon to your followers that will cultivate their faith, and then once you've gained enough faith you can select an upgrade for your character or for your cult in the form of rituals, which you will want to perform from time to time to keep your cult happy, because if your cult is unhappy, followers might leave and you don't want that. You also need to make sure the place is clean or your followers might get sick, and you also need to make sure that they stay fed. Now, what I quite enjoyed from the cult followers is that they each have their own traits and that they're not just a blank canvas. For example, one of my followers had a crush on someone, and I was then tasked to try and help her out to win over the guy that she had a crush on. So periodically I would get a new quest from her to help them out. So it's nice that it's not just a one-off thing when you get a quest. Certain quests can also follow up on each other to kind of go into this narrative, which I can appreciate. And it also makes it a lot of fun if you name all of your followers after a bunch of friends, because it can lead to some very funny scenarios. You might also not always want to accept these quests though that your followers give, as they might bring some difficulties to the cult, but refusing to take a quest will also lower that follower's fate, and if it gets too low they could desert and try to spread bad propaganda, and eventually they might leave the cult as well, leaving it in a worse shape. So you should try to convert them back to the ways of your cult, or if that proves too difficult, you can always sacrifice them instead. It's your cult and you can lead it however you want to. Personally, I've been enjoying this game a whole lot more than I initially thought I would. I'm a sucker for roguelike games, but the cult management adds something unique to the game that you often don't see in roguelikes, and it is something that is also a nice pastime to break away from the action from time to time. And when you're also wanting to spend some more time outside of a dungeon, you can also go do other side activities, like gamble with some of the NPCs that you meet along the way in the form of a minigame, or you can also go fishing, which is also never a bad idea, as the fish that you gain can be used to make food for your followers. There's also a few difficulty options to choose from, so if you like the cult aspect but you don't really want to be challenged by the combat, then you can just put the game on easy mode. But if you do like the combat more and you want that challenge, you could always turn the game on hard. But even if your main draw to the game is the combat, you can't ignore the cult aspect, so you need to do a bit of both. But overall, I think this is a really good game. It doesn't really take itself serious either, and I do like that from time to time, so it's been a great experience so far. And if you're a fan of either roguelike or management games, then I could definitely recommend you to try this one out. The game has a demo on Steam, so you don't even need to throw down money if you just want to give it a try. And with that, I've said just about everything that I wanted to say, so I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.